r/askreddit. Pizza delivery, hotel workers, and housekeepers of Reddit. What is your NSFW story? How would you rate it 1-10? I delivered room service at a nice hotel back in 89-90. One night I get a delivery for a bottle of high-end scotch to the penthouse suite. Great sale as I get automatic 17% on all orders. So the door opens and I get invited in. There are about 20 young Japanese men in the room and they have one of the guys pinned down on the bed and are wailing away on his bare feet with a shoe. I see this and don't know whether to laugh or call security. They see the stunned look on my face and reassure me that this is a bachelor party tradition where they are from. Sounds reasonable to me, so I go about my way. On my way out, several of the guys discreetly slid 10s and 20s into my hand as tips. After a couple more deliveries that night, I walked with over $250 from that room alone. 10-10 would recommend. I was a housekeeper at a hotel for a few years. I lived in an expensive city so rent was high but the pay covered the basics. One day my boss came up to my cart and warned me not to start cleaning a particular room until it was clear. It's not unheard of for guests to request later checkouts or stay an extra day, but I've never heard someone talk about a cleaning delay in such terms before. Then after 10ish minutes, a 30-something white male and a paramedic jog over to the room I was warned about. I didn't think it was my business to start prodding, but my first thought was oh fuck, dead body. I've heard stories from other hotel staff, it's rare but it happens. This time, the situation was kinda sorta worse than that. Elderly Vietnam vet rented a room with the sole intention of killing himself, called his son to say goodbye, and son called for an ambulance. He had already taken a shit ton of pills, but his body rejected them and he'd puked and shit all over the room. They escorted the elderly man out of the room. There were tears streaming down his cheeks and he wouldn't stop apologizing for the mess. It took 2 hours to clean what I could. We had to call a specialist service in to get the rest. I wasn't angry this time. It was one of the saddest things I'd ever seen. 8 out of 10. Pizza delivery for 7 years. Fewer than 10 times did I see any noteworthy degree of nudity. Usually women who'd answer the door in a towel or topless, but it wasn't the opening scene to porn that you're picturing. But once, I delivered pizza to an orgy in progress. If that's not a 10, I don't know what is, except that I didn't join in. There was a guy who ordered the same way every week. You know who this is, gimme the usual, and then hangs up. His name was Ron, and his usual was a large, 14 inches, sausage pizza burned, like theirs well done, where we make the cheese a uniform brown, but he wanted it further than that. Not literally black dust, but really dark all over. It was always delivery, and he tipped very well. Our drivers were drivers and order takers only, they didn't work other positions. I worked the oven and would only go on deliveries if we were behind on orders. One day in December I get a call from Ron, and I say I know your address, but I've never been there. Is it easy to find? He replies it's the one with 2 reindeer fugging in the front yard. So I'm driving around these cookie cutter townhomes that all look the same, and sure enough, there's one with a decorative reindeer mounting another out front. I walk up to the door, this super tan Italian guy in a purple robe and leopard print briefs, because his robe was wide open, answers the door, shouts at me you must be new. Here ya go and throws a 20 at me. Bill was $13. This was in 2001. Only a 2/10 in terms of NSFW stuff, but man that was a memorable delivery. Seeing this man in person who I'd cooked pizza for every week for 2 years was like seeing a centaur or unicorn. 10/10 as a customer though. Predictable, direct, kept it quick, tipped well. Probably not what you came here to see, but I used to work at the front desk of a crappy, no pun intended, hotel. One day the housekeepers found a room where the occupants had taken a steamy number 2 in the tub and turned the heat up to 90 before checking out. It was not safe to work in there. I was a housekeeper, it was a gross job. I came across used condoms, sex toys, poo, pee. The final straw came when someone had jacked off and left the load on top of the cover. I went to change the bedsheets and I put my hand right in it. It was a 0/10, definitely wouldn't recommend. I quit soon after. Used to do bicycle deliveries on the French Quarter in New Orleans. Frequently made deliveries to strippers while they're working. Sometimes you get a little behind the scenes view of the happenings between customers and strippers. Once handed food directly to a stripper while she was getting finger blasted, and she proceeded to hand me a tip from her bosom as though nothing was happening. I worked front desk for a small hotel in a small town that had 8 of those fantasy suites, where the rooms were designed to look like different things. Igloo, cave, casino, honeymoon suite, etc. There was so much NSFW stuff going on there that the housekeepers just told me to lie to myself when I was doing the laundry. Blood on the middle of the sheet? Clearly someone had a nosebleed. Unidentifiable stain? Had to be a food spill. It was the only way to get through the days. Thank goodness I never worked third shift. Those are the employees that dealt with the most NSFW stuff, mostly thanks to noise complaints. I was a delivery driver for 8 years and I have enough stories to write a book. Every family reunion I would tell stories from the previous year's experiences. Family used to say I should write a book. It'll give you a quick overview of just some of the stories. Even to this day my family will bring up stories I told them, but I forgot about it until they brought it up, lol. I'm just typing without caring about spelling and grammar. So here goes. Forgot to bring a 2-liter of Sprite to these chicks getting ready to go clubbing. Went back to pizza shop. Owner said bring them 2 to say sorry. Knocked on door. She peeked her head around the door with her obviously naked body behind the door. Handed her 1 2-liter. She reached around. Showed me a boob while grabbing first 2-liter. Tried not to look, but you know, even without looking directly at something you get a nice view. Then I said, I actually brought 2. So instead of her putting that one down and grabbing another, she just buck naked in front of me holding 2 2-liters, showing me the world. But the random crazy story doesn't stop there. I head back to the shop and tell the co-workers what just happened. We have a good laugh and boss says head to next delivery. I get to a different hotel and it's a dude that answers. 2 dudes with 2 women sitting on some chairs in the room, and I hear her telling the guys about her delivery driver. I laughed and said, hey, I just delivered to you. You look different with clothes on. We laughed. Easily my most memorable delivery. Used to deliver to a nudist. 50-ish. Pretty saggy, had no cares in the world that I seen her. It wasn't the greatest, but yeah. Delivered to a woman passed out on pills. Her like maybe 5-6-year-old pays for the pizza and just does his own thing. Pill bottles all over the living room table. I called the cops. No clue what came of it. Felt obligated. Delivered to 4 dudes. 3 of them rushed outside butt naked when I got there. 4th dude locked the door laughing. One of the guys said we asked for the female driver. One of their friends. Pretty funny. I asked who had the cash and where was it. Delivered to a poker game with a bunch of 60-year-olds or so. Richer group of guys that bought out the top of a hotel. The 10 men were playing poker out in the hall. The wives were at the other end of the hall, all in little going out to dance gowns. Old man told me to drop the pizzas off at the table and collect the money from his wife. Found the wife and she had a $50 tip for me if I got it out from between her obvious fake tits popping out of her gown with my teeth. Was young, too embarrassed, just grabbed it and said thanks. Delivered to a bridesmaid's party. Women were like, the pizza's here. Just kidding, it's the stripper pulling up my shirt and a couple girls laughing, rubbing their hands on my chest. Super embarrassing. I'm not a dancer, and shy. Been tipped pills. Been tipped weed. Delivered to 2 people having sex. Seen a couple dicks. Delivered to a HWY patrol or sheriff convention. Off-duty police officer says come on in. Have a beer with us. Sorry I can't. He says want one for the road? Lol. Yet let me get right on that. Delivered to an off-duty cop's house that reeked of pot. Delivered to a maybe 15-year-old girl or so that answered the door, and as I was handing her the pizza her uncle said, Hannah, show I'm your tits. You might get a discount. I only know it was her uncle cause she turned embarrassed and said Uncle Tom. Or some other name. Easy way to make some extra tip is when you smell weed, just breath in and say smells good in here. It's always met with a he's a cool dude. Delivered to a meth head or tweaker or something. Been met with a gun in someone's hand. He constantly looked out his windows the whole time I was trying to get the delivery done. I'm 34 now and I delivered from 18-26 or so. At a resort party vacation town. Osage Beach, Lake of the Ozarks, Missouri. Party Cove type people riddle this town, so I've seen my fair share of shit. And lots more I'm forgetting. Delivered to a guy that said on the phone when he ordered, "Get here in time, we have 2 chicks naked swimming in the pool." Got there just as they were out walking to the hotel room. Once I got in the room, the guy said, "OHH girls, drop your towels and give him a hug." They both hugging me, both with one leg propped up around me like Captain Morgan. The giant bottle of Giga empty in the sink. One couple goes into one of the spare rooms and starts fucking a dude. Lights on, door wide open. The other girl just starts playing with her little puppy split leg on the living room floor right in front of me. 2 guys behind me just watching the girl. Really awkward. Random shit happens to delivery drivers. Trust. I used to make 200-300 in cash every weekend night and 100-200 every weekday in my town. It was pretty nice at 18 with no cares to go to college or learn a trade at the time. And yet the amount of girls that would come down from KC and STL to be dock girls making 30-40k in a summertime job just showing their bikinis off and pumping gas for boys with boats. Making hella tips. Delivered to the Girls Gone Wild bus. Had multiple $100 tips. 250 biggest ever. But that was like 60 pies. 2 or 3 trips. Once delivered to a hotel and while in the elevator a guy said, "I'll give you $80 right now for that pizza." 3 pies. Ticket was like 40. Gave him the pizza, collected the cash, called my boss and said, "I need 3 pies now." Delivered the pies again like 20 later with no issues. Once collected on a 110 bill. Drunk woman pays with 2 $100 bills. I think she thought it was a 100 and a 10. Started to walk away, had a guilty conscience and turned around and knocked. As soon as I did I knew I made a mistake. Should have kept walking. Told her what happened. She gave me 100, a 10 and a 5. I was like, "Bitch, you could have gave me a 100 and a 50 and saved 50. FFS. Delivered to the hospital and as I'm up in the hospital I come out to find a guy waiting for his ride inside my car looking for my tips. I know it's my fault. I had windows down and a couple pies in the back. I kept my tips in my middle console thing. But I like, dude, WTF. Get out of there. He was like, "I'm hungry." Come on, tfo. Once delivered a pizza to a club and as I'm going to leave a guy runs up asking for a ride. I'm not supposed to give rides. He says he'll give a tip. I give him a ride. Pretty close to the shop anyways. Gives me a 100 for my troubles. On my way back from a delivery in the rain I see a young guy like 18 or so walking down the road. I stop and ask if he wants a ride. I can take him as far as my shop and let him use the phone. He is crying. Says thanks. Tells me his 3 buddies left him because he pissed them off or something. He was from STL. So hours away with no phone and no help, no friends. Felt really bad for the bloke. Delivered to a club as it was closing. As I walk back to my car a super drunk guy is carrying one of my pizzas off in between houses. I'm yelling to give that pizza back. A group of other people walking back to their condos start to help me and call him a dick and stuff. I get the pizza back, untouched, uneaten, unbitten. Lol. Night goes on as normal. Delivered to a stripper. I think. She was wearing a shirt and nothing else. With the name of a local strip club. She paid me in nothing but once. Total like 40. I'm now that guy and sit in people's basements 1 hour or so and get to know people's lifestyles intimately. 1,000 plus basements a year. Some of my stories are awesome. If I can manage to link some of the videos and pics of the shit I find, I will. Lots of NSFW stuff. Some of the shit is awkward. If it's unordinary I take a video or pic. I used to work in a hotel as the front desk supervisor. Please don't answer the door in a towel. Ask us to wait if you need to throw on some clothes real quick. I can't tell you how many times I brought something up to a room, the person answered the door in a towel, and then accidentally dropped some or all of the towel reaching for whatever I've brought them. Please put some clothes on. A friend of mine works at a hotel. This guy called the front desk asking if they could fix the heater, which is a very common request even though they are very easy to operate. She went up to his room and when she got there he had handcuffed himself to the bed and was naked. Guess he was confident she would go for him cause he didn't have the key. She left him there, with no key, but naked and didn't close the door all the way. Was one of 2 maintenance men at an apartment complex. Thankfully, 2 older, trashy women preferred the other guy. They would wear old worn out lacy things every time he was scheduled to be in their unit for repairs. They were also borderline hoarders. Posted before, but fits. Delivered pizza in Washington state back around 15 years ago and had several odd experiences. Most bizarre one I can remember, I was delivering several pizzas to a house which came to a total of about $36. I walk up to the house, knock on the door and a little kid answers the door. He hands me $40, takes the pizzas and closes the door. I stood there for a moment and just figured they were giving me the rest as a tip and the parents were too lazy to get off the couch. I'm almost back at my car and I hear, "Hey pizza guy, get back here." I turn around and see crazy looking blonde lady in the door in a towel. I walk back and she starts into a rant about how I was trying to steal money from her kid. I explained to her that I just thought they were giving me the money as a tip, and if that was an issue, they can have it back. I gave her the $4 back and after a bit more talking she ended up giving me $2 as a tip. Not that great, but better than having a pissed off customer. Thinking all was cool, I headed back to the shop. When I get back at the shop, my friend who was managing the shop was on the phone looking a bit pissed. I walk in and he gets off the phone and explains that was the customer yelling at him about my behavior. I explain what happened, and we both figure they were crazy and continue on with the day. Fast forward 20 minutes, I have another order to take and I am putting more pizzas in my car. I go to leave but there is this big ass pickup truck in the way. I go to the driver and ask if they could move since I have pizzas to deliver. The driver responds, "Why, so you could rip more people off." I look closer and in the passenger seat is the crazy lady now with crazy boyfriend driving. I go back into the shop and tell my buddy, "Crazy people here to see us." My friend, being the hilarious guy he is, grabs paper and a pen and walks outside, very obviously writes down the guy's license plate and heads back inside. Then proceeds to call the cops. Shortly after that they take off, but tried to follow me most of the night, but found it hard in their oversized redneck truck and me in a little sporty pizza mobile. TL. Doctor, don't deliver to crazy. 4/10. A few years ago, the hotel I was working at had a few jacuzzi suits. This man and woman check in and give a trashy vibe from the very beginning. We get through the check-in and everything is fine until a few hours later. I get a call from the room. The man is clearly intoxicated and begins his rant about how his air conditioning isn't working. I immediately roll my eyes and groan internally as 9/10 times people have a steaming hot bath and fail to realize that turning on the switch doesn't immediately create a winter wonderland. This is where I've been the general placating to resolve this as easy as possible. We don't have maintenance on hand at this time, however, I'd be happy to move you directly across the hall for the night. This isn't good enough. No. I want you to look at it. That's your job. Come look at it now. Well, technically he's right, however, he's drunk and calling someone an idiot when they're sober isn't the most fun experience to begin with. So, I make my way to his room, knock on the door and he opens the door. Bam. Blasted by the hot air immediately. Who knew? I immediately knew something wasn't right. The room was completely dark save a few flickering lights. My internal nope sensors were going off. And then I saw it. More than a dozen tea lights flickering in the room. A drunk man wearing leopard print undies. I walk inside and make my way to the air conditioner. I didn't get too far before I am greeted by a woman on my right. She's friendly and polite. And completely naked on top of the bed. I retain my professionalism, greeting her and making my way to the air conditioner. Sure enough, it's working fine. It's warm in the room because of the jacuzzi. I explain the situation to the man again. Your air conditioning seems to be fine, sir. All I can do at this point is move you across the hall. After some general rambling, the man leans in towards me and whispers in my ear. The general is at half salute tonight. Can you have sex with my wife for me? While he's explaining this to me, he wife is finding a more comfortable position on the bed. But now legs and vagina spread wide. I politely decline his offer and apologize being the Canadian that I am and return to the front desk and never heard from him for the rest of the month. The next night I came in, I was presented with how did we do card where the comment stated they were very happy with their stay although disappointed I didn't sleep with his wife.